All right, so let's dive into something pretty big, something that could really shake things up globally. Money. Specifically, what happens if the US dollar isn't the only big player? Yeah, the only game in town anymore.
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, and it's definitely more relevant than ever. You've probably heard with this whole Brics currency thing,
Yeah.
with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa all kind of teaming up
Yeah.
to challenge the dollar.
Yeah, that was making headlines for sure. But while everyone was focused on that, something even bigger kind of slipped under the radar. The launch of a Brics payment system called Embridge. And that's what we're going to unpack today, why it matters, what it could mean for the future of global finance, and most importantly, how this could actually impact you.
Yeah, this is a great example of how things are really changing on a global scale. I mean, for a long time, the U.S. dollar has been king,
Yeah.
of the financial world, but now a lot of countries are looking for alternatives, and Embridge offers exactly that.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What exactly is Brics, and why is everyone making such a fuss about it now?
So Brics actually started as a prediction by Wall Street analysts back in 2001. The idea was that these four countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, were poised to become major, economic powerhouses by 2050. I mean, they have huge populations, tons of resources, and much lower labor costs. South Africa actually joined the group a little bit later in 2010.
And for a while, it seemed like that prediction was right on the money.
Yeah, it really did. But after the 2008 financial crisis, the excitement around Brics kind of died down, especially when commodity prices took a nosedive.
But now it feels like Brics is back in a big way. What changed?
Well, a few things happened. Commodity prices have been going up in recent years, which gave Brics nations a financial boost. And then on top of that, global alliances are shifting, with a lot of countries looking for options beyond, Western-led institutions.
So how does this Embridge system actually work? It sounds pretty complex.
So think of Embridge as a digital version of central bank money. It's designed for those big transactions, between institutions like central banks and commercial banks. It's called a wholesale central bank digital currency, or CBDC for short.
And the tech behind it, is it like Bitcoin?
Well, it is built on a blockchain, but not the same kind as Bitcoin. Embridge uses a private permissioned blockchain. It's based on Ethereum. So that means it's not open to everyone. You need permission to access it.
Okay, so why all the buzz about Embridge? What makes it potentially game-changing?
Here's the key. Embridge is designed to bypass SWIFT, which is currently the dominant system for international financial transactions. SWIFT is heavily influenced by the U.S., and some countries see it as a tool of U.S. control over global finance.
I get it. So by cutting out SWIFT, Embridge could potentially reduce the world's reliance on the U.S. dollar for trade.
Exactly. It allows countries to directly swap currencies without needing the U.S. dollar as a middleman.
Which brings us to the aha moment. Saudi Arabia joining Embridge. Now, they haven't officially joined Brics itself, but being part of Embridge is a pretty big deal, right?
Oh, it's incredibly symbolic.
Yeah.
It shows that even a close U.S. ally like Saudi Arabia is looking for financial alternatives. This could be a sign of things to come, with more countries potentially following suit.
That makes sense. It's like they're hedging their bets, not wanting to put all their eggs in one basket.
It's a smart move, especially with rising tensions between the U.S. and China. Embridge allows countries to engage in global trade without having to pick sides. They can maintain a level of financial neutrality.
But setting up a whole new financial system can't be easy. What are some of the challenges they might run into?
One big hurdle is the potential for imbalances in currency holdings. For example, after Russia was hit with sanctions, they started selling oil to India in rupees, but they ended up with tons of rupees that they couldn't easily use because they were essentially trapped in the Indian economy.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare. How could Embridge address that?
That's where the concept of a Brics currency becomes really intriguing. There's been a lot of talk about a retail Brics currency, something people could use every day, like a digital yuan or ruble. But what if the Brics currency isn't for everyday use? What if it's designed as a bridge currency within the Embridge system?
A wholesale Brics currency. How would that work?
Imagine a digital currency, potentially backed by something tangible, like gold or oil. That makes transactions within Embridge super smooth. Countries could use this currency to settle trade imbalances without needing massive reserves of other currencies or ending up stuck with a bunch they can't use.
So instead of having piles of unusable rupees, Russia could swap them for this wholesale Brics currency in Embridge and then use that to trade with other countries.
Exactly. It would act like a global lubricant for trade, preventing those currency bottlenecks Russia experienced.
Okay, starting to get the picture now. So we have Embridge. which could potentially bypass SWIFT and the US dollar. And then we have this idea of a wholesale Brics currency to help keep things running smoothly within the system. This sounds like it could be huge for the global financial landscape.
It certainly has the potential. But remember, we're still in the early stages. Embridge is basically a pilot project right now. There are a lot of hurdles to overcome before it could truly challenge the current system.
And of course, the US isn't just going to sit back and watch all of this happen, right?
Of course not. The U.S. still holds a lot of power in the financial world, and they'll likely push back to maintain that dominance. This is going to be a slow shift in power dynamics, not a sudden revolution.
This is all so fascinating. But before we get too deep into the weeds, let's think about what this all means for the average person. What are the potential implications of a world where the US dollar isn't the only big player?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's one we'll explore in more detail. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll look at the potential pros and cons of a multipolar financial system, how it could affect individual financial freedom, and what it might mean to navigate a world with competing financial systems.
So much to unpack. But for now, we'll leave you with that thought. Join us next time.
As we continue our exploration of Embridge and the potential rise of a Brics currency. Welcome back. Last time we left off with that big question. What would a world with alternative financial systems actually look like for everyday people like you and me?
Yeah, it really does get to the heart of things. You know, power, freedom, how we live our lives. A lot of us just take for granted that the US dollar is the main currency for global trade. But that also means a lot of power is concentrated in the US financial system. A multipolar system with several strong currencies and ways to make payments could spread that power around and potentially make things more stable.
So kind of like diversifying your investment portfolio, not putting all your eggs in one basket. Exactly. That's a great way to think about it. If one currency has problems, the impact is lessened because others can pick up the slack.
Right.
But on the other hand, having lots of different currencies could also make things way more complex. Imagine having to deal with different exchange rates and regulations all the time.
Right. Like a trade-off between stability and simplicity.
Exactly. Individuals, businesses, governments, they would all need to weigh those pros and cons carefully. But let's not forget the good stuff. A multipolar system could also boost competition and innovation in financial services.
And more competition usually means better deals for consumers, right? Lower fees, better services, more options.
Right on. It could also empower countries that have felt sidelined by the current system, giving them more control over their own economies.
Which brings us to individual economic freedom. How could all of this affect people's ability to manage their own money?
This is where things get really interesting. Imagine being able to choose which currency best fits your needs, instead of being stuck with just one.
So you could go for a currency that's more stable, has lower transaction fees, or even offers better privacy protections.
Exactly. It could be very empowering. However, managing multiple currencies also adds a layer of complexity, especially with exchange rates constantly going up and down.
Yeah, that could definitely be a headache, especially for things like long-term financial planning or investments.
Absolutely. That's why financial literacy becomes even more crucial. In this kind of world, people need to understand how different currencies work, the risks involved, and how to make smart decisions in a more complicated financial landscape.
It sounds like a steep learning curve for a lot of people.
It is, but it also presents a huge opportunity for innovation in financial education and tools. Imagine apps that easily convert between currencies, analyze their performance, and help you make informed choices. That could be a whole new industry right there.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential upsides and downsides. But what about the practical challenges of actually navigating this new world? You mentioned competing financial systems. What kind of issues could that create?
One of the biggest challenges is interoperability. Can these different systems seamlessly talk to each other? Imagine trying to send money to someone using a different system. It could be a logistical nightmare.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Super frustrating.
Exactly. And then there's the question of regulation. Who's in charge of these new systems? How do we prevent fraud and misuse? These are complex questions with no easy answers.
It feels like we're heading into uncharted territory.
We are. But that's also what makes it so exciting. The emergence of alternative financial systems is a monumental shift. It's a chance to rethink money, how it works, who controls it, and how it can be used to empower people and create a fairer global economy.
It's definitely a lot to process, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride.
Totally. And it's a ride we're all on, whether we realize it or not.
Okay, so we've talked about Embridge, this new payment system, and the idea of a Brics currency. But let's bring it back to you, our listener. Why should you care about all of this?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It matters because these changes, they could directly impact your wallet. Think about it. What if you weren't limited to just one currency? You could choose to use currencies that are more stable, have lower fees, or even align with your personal values.
So it's about having more control over your finances, being able to choose the tools that work best for you.
Exactly. It could lead to more competition and innovation, which often translates into better and cheaper financial products for everyone. Imagine a world where you have access to a wider range of financial tools, no matter where you live.
Sounds pretty good to me. But we also talked about the risks. Managing multiple currencies seems complicated, and a multipolar system could be less stable. How can people prepare for these challenges?
Well, financial literacy is key. With multiple currencies and payment systems, it's more important than ever to understand how money works, how to evaluate risks, and how to make smart decisions.
So it's not just about understanding the stock market anymore. It's about understanding the entire global financial system and how different currencies interact.
Yeah, it's about developing a global financial mindset. And it's not just individuals who need to adapt. Businesses will need to figure out how to manage multiple currencies and assess risks in this new world.
This sounds like a pretty big shift for a lot of people.
It is, but it's also a huge opportunity. Imagine a world where everyone can participate in a truly global economy without being limited by one dominant currency.
It's almost like a financial revolution.
I love that analogy. It's about breaking down barriers, encouraging new ideas, and creating a more inclusive and fair financial system. But change like this takes time. It requires effort, education, and a willingness to adapt.
So what can our listeners do to start preparing for this potential new world?
Start by educating yourself. Learn about different currencies, check out alternative payment systems, and stay informed about what's happening in global finance. There are tons of resources available online, in books, and through financial education programs.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to explore. Dip your toes into the world of cryptocurrency. Look at the international investment opportunities. And start thinking beyond your local currency.
It sounds like we're at the very beginning of a really exciting journey.
We are. And it's a journey we're all on together. So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged. The future of finance is being shaped right now, and we all have a role to play.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Embridge, the Brics currency, and the implications of alternative financial systems. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.